Hello freaks, it's the Infernal Viewer, and today we're doing something slightly different. Um, so we're doing the Doctor Who tag. Tags of, there's book tags, all sorts of tags, and I found a Doctor Who tag, and I thought it'd be interesting to do. Again, I'm doing my Doctor Who watch through review series. I'm watching through all of the Doctor Who from the beginning. I've already watched Edge of Destruction, however, that is not up during this recording at the time of recording, but I think it'll be up by the time this is up. So, yeah. But I thought, again, to get to know my Doctor Who tastes, you might know we'll do a Doctor Who tag. It might be interesting. So I've got a sheet of questions and also a few answers so I can remember the answers. I've just dropped something. So I can remember some things. Obviously, I'm terrible with names and that, so I need a few, yeah. So this one was on this particular tag, I believe was made, I believe was made by a chap called Luke Spillane. I'll link down in the description the video and his channel. It was a while ago, I think it was from 2014. But hey, this is where I got the questions, so I'll link it down and you can go and watch the video yourself. And if you want to do this yourself, I'll also put down in the description the questions. Obviously, watch the video if you want, and you can answer them yourselves. So the first question is, who is your favourite Doctor? So we're starting off strong. So, of course, my favourite Doctor, I've probably said this in other things before, I know I've said it on the podcast quite a few times, is the 7th Doctor. I absolutely love him. Sylvester McCoy, I just love this era, I love this, Series 26 is my favourite series. Probably shouldn't say that yet, but I just love it. I love his portrayal, the goofy, silly side, and also the really dark, chess master side of his portrayal. I love, how him and Ace sort of bond. They've got this interesting relationship. I love this Doctor. It just, yeah, and it wasn't my first Doctor. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I just absolutely adore this this Doctor. So yeah, the 7th Doctor. I also want to put down here, because they don't actually ask this question, but I would like to say my first Doctor was 10. My first Doctor was David Tennant, and for a long time he was my favourite Doctor. So he is my Doctor. Like, he's got that special place in my heart. Like, my favourite Doctor is Sylvester McCoy, but my Doctor is 10. So yeah, he will always have a very special place in my heart, as a lot of people. For a lot of people, he is their favourite and he is their Doctor as well. So yeah. Okay, next we have, who is your favourite companion? And you can probably tell what I'm going to say here. It's Ace. Again, just the same thing. I love Ace. She's a great character. She's kind of got the thing of, like, straight white man writes a teenage young girl, but it's, especially and also from the 80s as well. But I honestly just love her, and Sophie Aldred does a wonderful job portraying that character. I've actually, I should have showed this before, but I have actually met them both. So I got their signatures, and I did get a photo with Sylvester at a con, and it was lovely. Yeah, this is Curse of Fenric. I've got a signed copy of Curse. But yeah, so, and she was absolutely lovely, and I just, yeah, she's great. Okay, so next we have, what is your favourite story? Wow. I mean, obviously, we could sit here for years and just discuss this. There's so many different stories. I know what my favourite story is, but there's so many I could put here as well. But personally, I'm going to have to go, again, my favourite Doctor, so it's going to be a Silver story. A bit out of the blue, though, it's going to have to be Ghostlight. I absolutely adore Ghostlight. It's my favourite story, as I say. I love the atmosphere, I love the concepts, I love, the different characters. The first sort of original Target book, not the I had a few reprints, but the first Target book I actually went out to buy, like that I actually went, okay, I'm gonna get this, or online, I didn't go out, was Ghostlight. So yeah, that was, and I have a really nice copy of that. I should have brought it to show you, but yeah, I just love this story. Everything about it is brilliant. I love the sort of, I suppose, the villain. But he's a very interesting villain in Light, and the whole idea of, like, evolution, and the fact that everything just keeps changing, and I love that idea. It's such an interesting and fun idea, and obviously it progresses Ace's character as well, because we sort of have a story arc in series 26, and it progresses Ace as a character. We have her, being forced to return to Gabriel Chase. And it's just so good. I absolutely love it. It's a 3-parter, and yeah, Ghostlight for me. I should have actually said that, with the companions, again, there's so many I could choose for favourite companions, but obviously Ace means the most to me. I mean, I could say Sarah Jane. You said Sarah Jane Adventures there, as you could tell. I mean, of course, because, for me personally, growing up with Sarah Jane Adventures, I was not growing up with classic. I was not growing up with Tom and Sarah, and well, I did see them on DVD at quite a young age. My first exposure to Sarah Jane was, of course, the Sarah Jane Adventures, and obviously the school reunion episode with David Tennant. So I think I saw Sarah Jane Adventures a bit before, though, and I will discuss a little bit, because we're on to the next question. What was your first story? So this was a little bit difficult, because obviously I don't actually remember, and when you're sort of discussing someone who's growing up with New Who, it's quite difficult. I don't know if this is coming from an aspect of, like, what was your first classic story. I'm going to do this in a few different ways. So my first classic story, I don't actually know. One of the first I remember watching was An Unearthly Child. I think that was one of the first I got on DVD. The beginnings box set. And so, so I remember watching that quite a long time ago now, when I obviously first got it. In terms of New Who and actually what my first story is, I don't know. I know my first Doctor was 10. However, the first story I remember sort of like actually going out and properly watching live as it broadcast and getting ready for it and being excited for it was the 11th Hour. Now, I could have possibly watched ones before, I can't really remember. I know I had a few of those volumes, because I did not start watching when it was first broadcast, because I was too young. With New Who, I mean, I think I was like 3, maybe. So yeah, I was young. So I did not watch, the 9th Doctor. I know I had a volume of his, and then when the 10th Doctor came on, I think it was sort of like series 4 time, or like specials when I was actually watching. I think I got some of his box sets. So that's what I remember most. But 11th Hour is the first Doctor story I remember watching properly live and being ready for it, and Series 5 is the first series I remember actually watching it as it was going out and being excited for each episode, and everything like that. So that one holds just such a special place in my heart. 11th Hour, and I think that was the first story that I would have watched live. It could be wrong though, but as far as I remember. So next we have favourite era or series. So obviously my favourite Doctor is 7, so my favourite series is Series 26, and then era, I guess, the 7th Doctor era. But let's actually take a proper era. I would go for 80s, because I guess you split it into the different, decades or whatever. So the 80s was just, it is just my favourite. I love it from, the end of Tom Baker Series 18 to the end of Sylvester in Series 26. I just love it. There are a lot of, it is kind of a hit and miss era. You have a lot of bad ones as well as really good ones, but I think there is a reason for that, being that I felt like they really went for some interesting ideas and really went to some interesting places. While you could say like the 70s was probably, or at least the early to about mid 70s was sort of, each story was at least, good. I mean, from sort of Pertwee to sort of series 14, that series, to the end of that series, I think you had, just constantly at least good stories, watchable stories. I mean, yeah, there's some here and there, maybe in the middle of Pertwee that aren't as good. But it was really consistent, I think. But for me, that kind of leads to not really like wanting to watch them constantly, because and they're still a nice like amount of different ideas, and they are different stories. They're not the same copy paste thing, no, but there are just a lot more out there, and interesting, fun ideas for me personally with the 80s. I love it, and those Doctors, we have some really interesting incarnations of the Doctor. 5 being my least favourite, but still a really great era actually, and some really, really great stories. Obviously 6th Doctor's era with Colin Baker was such a tumultuous time, but out of it came some really fascinating stories. I mean, I love the Trial of Time Lord series. I really do like that series. I think it's a great series, and it's a really interesting series for Classic Who. But even Series 22 with, Attack of the Cybermen is a fun Cyberman story. Probably for me, my favourite out of the 80s Cyberman stories. I'm not a fan of Earthshock. We'll talk about that when we get to that one in my watch through review, but that'll be a while off yet. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about it here. But yeah, you've also got, I really enjoy is it Revelation of the Daleks? I think that's the one with 6, isn't it? I absolutely adore that. Really, really good. Really incredibly dark, but fantastic. They played around with these concepts, and it was just awesome. I love 80s Doctor Who. I know a lot of people say, that is sort of when it went downhill. For me personally, I just love it from start to beginning. Not every single story is fantastic. No, there are stories I don't like. I mean, you've got, infamous stories like Time Flight. I don't think Twin Dilemma is actually that bad. I don't think it's a good story, but I don't think it's actually that bad. It's watchable. For his first story, it's terrible because, especially coming after Caves of Androzani. But I don't actually think it's an actually terrible per se story. But moving on then, because I could rant on about, all of this stuff. What is my favourite regeneration story? So, little surprise here, it's going to have to be Caves of Androzani. Because I haven't, Paul 8th Doctor, Paul McGann, I don't talk about him. I do enjoy his portrayal. I need to listen to Big Finish properly, because I just have not, so little time, so little money, sort of thing, you know. Been collecting the DVDs, so yeah. So Caves of Androzani is just a absolutely fantastic story and perfectly fit for the Fifth Doctor, for Peter Davison. I just love all of the characters. I love the sort of moral dilemmas. I love the fact that no character is good or evil. I love it all. I think it's a fantastic story, and what a regeneration story. I'm very I find regeneration stories very hit and miss. Um, Same with Post, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute as well, because I've put that down. But just Caves of Androzani, man, is just so good. Um, Obviously, I really enjoy the War Games as well. That is a fantastic story, an absolutely epic, 10-part, you know, brilliant piece of TV and send off for Patrick Troughton. So yeah. Okay. Next we have favourite post-regen story or post-regeneration story. So this is stories after they've regenerated. Again, very hit or miss. Very hit or miss. We've had some really good ones and we've had some really poor ones. Well, I'd say most of them have been kind of meh for me personally. But I'm going to have to go, and I'm going to go double with this one. I'm going to go 11th Hour and Spearhead from Space. I can't choose. And I can sort of go, okay, classic and then new Who. So yeah, for classic, I go Spearhead from Space. It's just a classic. We obviously get introduced to the Autons. We get introduced to John Pertwee, and also really underrated companion of Liz Shaw as well. I love Liz Shaw. I think she's a great companion and such a different companion to everything we had up to that point. So I love that companion. And obviously, that is the first story where we really get a proper, the unit family, where we get a feel for this new style. I mean, we'd met unit before, but it didn't really feel like this, where okay, these are the companions, we're sticking by these guys. They're not just I mean, obviously we'd seen them in the invasion and everything, and because they've been set up in the invasion, ready for this. But yeah. And then 11th Hour again. I partly nostalgia, I think, but also it's just a wonderful story. It's perfectly sets up the mood and atmosphere for series 5 and the 11th Doctor. That sort of fantastical, fairy tale element, and obviously gives us Amy and Rory and Prisoner Zero, and my favourite, basically run. I as a kid I used to do that, say that phrase so many times. So yeah, it's just great. It's a great story. And then we have favourite TARDIS. So this is favourite TARDIS interior. I don't really see much point in rating the outsides. It just changes a little bit in how old they look, how dented, and they do look different. But I just I'm not going to talk about outside. Obviously, it is to do with the favourite TARDIS interior. So I'm going to go with the 9th and 10th Doctor's interior. We have some great ones, obviously, with the first Doctor's original TARDIS is just great. 80s, it starts to look a bit okay, it's getting a bit old here. They started turning off the lights and just going, we really need a new TARDIS interior. But yeah, the new one is just brilliant. I just love the coral, it really makes it feel like a living ship, like it's supposed to, that it's been grown. I love that. I think it's fantastic. It's such a wonderful design, and when it explodes and just gets absolutely demolished in End of Time, David Tennant's final story, his regen story. It's kind of wow, it's like blimey, this thing that's been going for, I think 4 series now, is just being absolutely ripped apart and destroyed, and it's. But there's also, it does kind of feel like dirty and grimy at the same time, and I love the mix of like, um, both natural, stuff, grown stuff, with also the technology, like the grating and everything on the floor, and I love it. It's a great TARDIS design. A few others that I love. I mean, obviously, I have to shout out because I haven't been talking about Paul McGann, but the TV movie TARDIS, I love that as well. It's a wonderful TARDIS interior. I think maybe it strays a bit too far into the sort of like absolute massive feeling like a sort of home, with the sort of the TARDIS control bit. But I do love that design in and of itself. It is great. I also, obviously, I really like the new TARDIS interior that we have for Jodie, because I obviously haven't been talking about the Jodie TARDIS. It's great. I really like it. So yeah, absolutely, I really enjoy that one. And then finally, we have favourite villain or monster or whatever. And I'm going to have to go with the Master. I can't not go with the Master. I just love the Master in all his incarnations. From the original Roger Delgado to Crispy Master, to Anthony Ainley, to John Sim, and I got Derek Jacobi, obviously played like 10 minutes of it. I need to get those War Master box sets because I'd love to properly hear him play the actual Master rather than just Yana for most of it. But also our new Master as well. I mean, obviously Missy, and then also our new Master as well. I love him. Sacha Dhawan, I think his name is. He's great. He does a fantastic job. I love his kind of, yeah, I just love the Master. You got that Moriarty figure, and I just love it. I will say as well, I think a lot of people, obviously Roger Delgado, a lot of people's favourite Master, and I think like that sort of the way he played it was perfectly fitted for John Pertwee's Doctor, and I don't think he could have worked with any other Doctor. Um, which is why I kind of like the fact that they didn't try and absolutely copy what Roger Delgado did. I think Anthony Ainley tried to in Logopolis, but as he went on, he became far more the sort of insane, wonderfully maniacal, screaming these words of like, "Oh, Doctor," and just having fun with, and sort of playing it a little bit more camp, just having fun with that role, and his whole get up is just fantastic. I love it so much. And I do really like, again, the TV movie Master. Forgotten his name, but all it's dressed for the occasion, and also sort of playing it like a Terminator to start with, But I like him. Especially once we get to sort of the end and he gets to put on a bit more camp, it's great, and then it's fun. But there's some great moments, when he's with I forget his name, but when they're in the ambulance, it's great. It's just really fun. But yeah, the Master just always been my favourite. I just love the Master. From my first experience with John Sim, I've never not just absolutely adored that version of the Master. That version of the Master, sorry. Or Missy, again, it's so interesting. Yeah, I love Missy as well. I just, all the incarnations, and obviously, I mean, Daleks, Cybermen, love the Sea Devils, and Syl, one-off villains. I love it. I love all of it. Doctor Who is just one of those shows I absolutely love. Everything. So not everything, but most of it, to be honest. Okay, I think that is the tag. So yeah, if you want to do this yourself, there will be not only a link to the original Luke Spillane, or however you say his name, but also I will write it down there. yet. So do, you know, have a little chat amongst yourself, you know, comment what you think, you know, your opinions, your favourite Doctors, all that sort of stuff, what you thought of mine, favourite Doctors, do you agree or do you disagree? Obviously be nice. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, obviously, and, you know, do the ding ding bell. It's not up here, it's down here, but do the ding ding bell if you want to obviously keep up to date with all my content and get there first. And there'll be links to Twitter and also my podcast that I do with my mum, Blathering On Podcast, in the description. So yeah, all that's left to say is see you in the next video. Thank you very much, and I did that the exact wrong way around. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I will see you the next time.